The educational system of the UAE has prospered since 1971, having established an excellent and diversified system of higher education in a very short period of time. The country now has one of the highest application participation rates in the world.
Yes, the UAE has a very systematic way of thinking about learning and how to improve learning in the UAE in higher education. For example, the QF, the quality frameworks, they're being introduced right now to help us align, to map our learning outcomes with the outcomes expected by the Ministry of Higher Ed. So there's definitely a formula in place, and there's every effort being made not to make that formula too prescriptive. So I would say that the UAE is making great strides in this area.
I'm proud that we invest, as far as the federal budget is concerned, not less than 20-25% of our budget is spent on education. Apart from that, recently we wanted to transform our society to a knowledge-based society, as we are moving in a knowledge-based economy as well around the world, and taking into consideration what's going on around us and the globalization, and also the interconnectivity of the events in the world, whether environmental, health, financial, economical. We all get affected by it.
As of October 2010, there are 52 higher education institutions in Dubai, with a total of 39,000 students. This is a 2% increase in the number of higher education students compared to October of 2009, and a 10% increase in the number of Emirati students studying in Dubai. With foreign universities such as Michigan, Rochester, Middlesex, and others opening campuses in Dubai at designated areas like Academic City and Knowledge Village, one wonders if the education provided by these universities is up to mark, and if one can actually get an education of Western standards in the Middle East.
The major difference that I see between higher education in the UAE, higher education in the GCC area, versus higher education in the US is time. In the US, higher education institutions on the East Coast, 300 years plus. On the West Coast, 100 years plus. In the UAE, AUD alone, 17 years. So we're just learning how to crawl, and then eventually, or rather we're learning to crawl, then walk, and we shall eventually be running with the rest of them across the globe.
Melanie Swan, a British reporter for the educational sector in the national newspaper, discusses the number of steps for improving quantity and quality education coverage that will make a positive difference in the UAE.
Well, I think that basically there's two steps. Firstly, the universities and colleges need to engage much better with the media. There's a big fear that, there might be negative coverage that comes out. People are afraid to speak to the media. They really want to control what goes out, the messages that go out to the press. But ultimately, any kind of coverage is good, because even if it's covering something negative that needs reform, that can only benefit the students. Highlighting bad teaching, bad curricula, bad standards, all of this ultimately will have a positive consequence for the student. I think really the strength of the National is the fact that we have a dedicated higher education reporter, and we have a K-12 schooling education correspondent, which means that we both have the time to do quality and quantity at the same time. We really do cover the length and breadth of the country, which I think is the only way to really give higher education coverage. The other reporters on the other papers are so stretched trying to do schools and universities that I think that's a big challenge. So getting higher education into the main section of the newspaper as opposed to perhaps campus notes on Gulf News, I think really it's not quite there, because I don't quite think it's on the news agenda as much as other issues that are going on in the UAE right now. I think it would really benefit students if they understood more about the 100 or more universities and colleges that there are here. And of course, one way of doing that would be to have better media coverage. But it's not just going to be media coverage. It's going to be things like the initiative that AUS has just done and launching an ebook to help students decide on universities. For example, the KHDA has its own guidelines, but there's so many institutions and so many systems in the different emirates that it is very confusing for students. So I think in order for that to be raised, it's going to take a lot of work on the parts of the authorities, the media, the institutions, and everyone needs to work a bit harder to work together, I think, to really get people interested in it as a news subject.
So I think with the help of the media, that is with honest and full coverage, we can do that here in the UAE. And we can learn to run a lot faster than other countries have in terms of academic success, intellectual and cultural growth. The strength of the UAE depends on the strength of its educational system.
It is clear that higher education comes in all shapes and sizes, and this means that solutions will need to be organic. This work will require long-term political and financial commitment, as well as high-level support to convince the public of the widespread importance of higher education.